the working group. I'd like to inform everyone present that this meeting will be broadcast live to the internet via the council's website and will be capable of repeated viewings. The images and sound recordings may also be used for training purposes within the council. In order to ensure that the meeting is managed effectively, can everyone please keep to the following guidelines for speaking? Councillors should only use the raise your hand function to request to speak and only speak when invited to do so by the chair. Please switch off your camera and microphone when not speaking, and remember to set your mobile phone to silent for the duration of the meeting. Any views expressed by any speakers in the meeting are the speaker's own and they do not necessarily reflect the views of the council. Please can councillors also be aware that the webcast will continue to be streamed live 20 seconds after the close of the meeting. This is due to a time delay in transmitting live. I'll now confirm the names of the remaining members of the committee. We've got Councillor Pauline Bell, Angela Benham, Jenny Benzer, Joanna Collins, Dom Elliott Starkey, Simon Evans, Linda Gruby, Madeline Hall, Ian Huddleston, Pete Inman, Pam Reddy, Jill Scott and Jean Todd. We'll move on to the agenda now. We'll go to agenda item 1, which is apologies for the absence. The only ones that I'm aware of so far are for Pete Inman. There's a few more for Pete Inman and Alan subbing. Apologies from Councillor Gruby as well, and officer apologies from Katie Hampton. And then just before we go through on the rest of the agenda, just in terms of sort of some introductions, we've got Kaylee Richter, who's joining us as a principal officer within the climate change team. Kaylee, I don't know if you want to say a few words or just give us a wave.
Hi, I'm Kaylee. I've joined you guys as the Principal Climate Change Officer. I'll be managing the team going forward and shaping the way things go from now on. And it's really good to be here. Thanks.
Oh, and then just going back to the apologies, Kath Seisland is subbing for Linda Gruby. And then just in additional in terms of sort of new folk that may not have been with us on the call before, I'm going to try and pronounce this right, but I suspect that may not work the first time, but we'll give it a go. We have Faika Adele,
hi.
our new domestic energy officer.
Yeah, hi, I'm Faika. I'm the new domestic energy officer. So it's Faika.
Okay, in that case, we shall move on again. We've done apologies for absence. Have we got any declarations of interest, either disclosed with pecuniary interests or other interests on the matters before us this evening? I see no hands. We shall move on then to minutes of the previous meeting. Are we all okay that they accurately reflect our last gathering?
Yes.
Thank you, Joanna.
Happy with that.
Thanks, Alan. We shall move on then to our first update for this evening, which is the energy project update from March's Energy. And looking at the screens, there was one. Jamie Walls, I'm guessing that you're going to talk to us about that.
Yeah, so thank you very much for having me with you tonight. So yeah, my name is Jamie. I work for March's Energy Agency. For those who are not aware of March's Energy Agency, I'm sure a lot of you will be. We're a charity that's been going on for over 25 years, looking at supporting people in fuel poverty, providing information around grants and support and energy efficiency and reducing bills, and helping community groups to share that knowledge wider. I have been asked to come and give an update on the projects that we've been running since October. I've got a PowerPoint presentation that I'll go through. If you want to put questions in the chat or through the chair, during the presentation, that's fine. If not, we can save the any questions to the end. Is everyone happy if I or is the chair happy if I share my screen and put a PowerPoint presentation up?
Yep, that's grand.
Yep. Okay. So if someone can just give me a heads up that they can see the screen, see the PowerPoint, that'd be great.
Yeah, happy with that.
Okay, so yeah, so this is the High Peak Borough Council Energy Engagement Project. I'll only mention this once at the start, but it has sort of, I guess, impacted a little bit. The project was supposed to start a few months previously, but it started in October, and it's running until the end of March. That slight delay in starting has meant we've been chasing our tail a little bit, but I'm really pleased about the action of what we've achieved so far. So in terms of an overview of the key objectives, we wanted, as part of the project, to create a data analysis desk-based research to support the targeting events to the most in need and aligned to the grant funding. We were going to create and deliver a comprehensive engagement plan with a large number of events attending. So we've got a target of 16 events that we're going to go to share the information about the project. We want to increase home visits to 100 and hopefully a few more. So these are home visits to help either owner-occupiers or people in social housing or private renters, and to create a pipeline of potential households for future funding and support. Advise on small measures for DIY household or install small measures, and support High Peak Borough Council in the handing out of the LED light bulbs. Refer households if anyone's eligible to grants such as Eco4. We can refer those. Support finding gaps in delivery to help develop housing strategies for all tenures. Establish an Eco4 process or help High Peak Borough Council start a Eco4 process. Look at training up community members to give advice or support and training around energy efficiency. Obviously, at the end and during the project, to produce reports clearly identifying the added services through this SLA. And finally, the use of our electric vehicle to provide a mobile information say. So that was the key objectives. I'll start by just going through a little bit about desk-based research. Some of you may be aware of this already, but according to information from 2023, the UK government estimate there are 3.17 million households in the UK in fuel poverty. The National Energy Agency, so the NEA, not to be mistaken for us, the MEA, put that figure much higher, but closer to 6 million. This works out a percentage across the UK of around about 13%. So 13% of householders living in fuel poverty. There is an average funding gap of £417. So this is the difference between the amount of money people can afford to spend on their heating and actually the amount of money they need to. For people in a D and E EPC rated property, that works out at about £300 odd. But for those in the F and G ratings, that funding gap between what they can afford and what they need to pay is £1,800. This is just a little bit of information around the energy performance certificates. So if you're looking at the High Peak compared to the UK in general, the High Peak in terms of the energy efficiencies of the housing stock is lower than the UK. So in virtually all categories, we have less well-performing houses than the UK in general. So only 11%, 11.8% of our houses are rated A to B for their energy efficiency, compared to 13.7% in the whole of the UK. And then obviously, because of that, we've got more housing stock that are rated E, F and G. We also in the High Peak have a slightly higher percentage of properties and households in fuel poverty. So that's 15.9% in the High Peak compared to 13% across the UK. We also have a smaller percentage uptake in houses that have gone through eco schemes or home improvement grants. So that's only 6.4% compared to 9%, or just over 9% in the UK. So that's some of the information about the EPCs. Looking into things in a bit more detail. So indices of deprivation is a ranking system that's based on 7 different indices. That's income, employment, education, health, crime, barriers to housing, and the living environment. So each one of those is sort of weighted slightly differently. And in terms of, oh yeah, I've got a question. If someone wants to ask a question.
Yes, just I was wondering why New Mills East appears on this list 3 times.
So what these are is this is based on the lower layer support area. So the indices of deprivations is split up into small areas. So each area consists of around about sort of 4 to 1,000 properties. So that's why you've got Gamesley, for example, is south and north. So there's probably maybe about 1,000, 1,500 houses in Gamesley.
Right. So these are subdivisions located within.
Yeah. So between 400 and 1,200 homes. You can see from this that Gamesley, south and north. Oh yeah, another quick question. Yeah, go for Alan.
Well, yeah, as a councillor for New Mills East, I'd like to know a little bit more information. Not now. Could you provide me with what the breakdown is and why it appears
I've put a link in the chat, which is a map from the Derbyshire Observatory of where the local super output areas are. It just shows you them on a map, and it's just the way that it breaks down the borough into that.
Yeah, so a lot of this information does come from the Derby Observatory, which if you've never been on is a really, really good source of information for your local area. If you also just Google indices of deprivation, I can provide sort of links to Sarah tomorrow. You can look at your different areas, and it will show you exactly the boundaries of these different support areas. But go back to what I was saying. So Gamesley South and Gamesley North are in that sort of highest 4 and 7% of deprivation in terms of these sort of 7 areas. The New Mills East, some of them in green, and the reason these ones are green because this list you can see at the moment includes all of those areas of deprivation. So it might be, for example, that in Gamesley there's something to do with barriers to housing and people find living in that area, or it might be something around educational attainment. So this is sort of a collective across all the different categories. If we go on to living in fuel poverty, so this is quite different. So those listed in green, so the 3 new mills, a part of Glossop and Coat Heath, they are not included in the living for fuel poverty. So this is just the top 15, as it were, 15 locations. It's when you look at the living in fuel poverty, it's only Barnes, the area of Barnes, so that's sort of South Buxton area. It's the only area that is in a similar position in terms of its level of the indices deprivation and its level of fuel poverty. So 17.7% of the properties in that area are in fuel poverty. Gamesley South, Gamesley North, Whitfield, Hadfield North and Stonebench, these are all areas that actually, in terms of their ranking for fuel poverty, the fuel poverty is obviously still quite high, but they're in a lower position than in the sort of indices deprivation. And then these are the 4 main locations. So 2 areas of Buxton Central, Howard Town, which is sort of central Glossop, and Limestone Peak, which is around Worm Hill and that side of Buxton. So those are the areas that have the highest percentage of fuel poverty in High Peak. And you can see a certain part of Buxton Central has a percentage of, a quarter of properties, households living in fuel poverty. And by that, in terms of fuel poverty, that's sort of listed as a ratio between the household income and what they are required to spend on energy bills to heat their homes appropriately. We've then got this next section. So these last few to come in, so Howard Town West, Blackbrook, Hope Valley and Hayfield are locations that weren't in the indices of deprivation, but have high levels of fuel poverty. I've got a question from Jean.
Yeah, I was just thinking of, is Buxton Central so high because it tends to be stone houses rather than?
Absolutely. So a lot of this will be, one of the interesting things about High Peak is when you look at the different properties, you tend to find sort of certain areas have got a lot of stone buildings which are hard to keep warm and hard to insulate. So the likelihood is those people in those properties are going to be spending more on fuel to keep the properties warm. The interesting things around there is you've got Blackbrook, so that's around Chinley, and then you've got the two areas of Hope Valley and Hayfield. So again, you're looking at the properties where potentially people are asset rich, potentially in terms of the price of their house, but they're in terms of sort of surplus money to spend on energy, they've got low incomes. So it's just really to show that in terms of fuel poverty, it's areas like Hope Valley and Hayfield and Chinley that people might not necessarily expect to be in fuel poverty are actually got quite a high level of fuel poverty, and that's something, those sort of harder to reach areas is something we want to work on during this project. So moving on in terms of events, as part of the project, we've got 16 events that we want to do for the duration of the project. We've done 9 events so far. So we've done one recently in Hayfield, which was with one of the councillors, I believe he's on the call today. We've done 3 in Glossop, 1 in Chinley, 1 in Buxton, 1 in Gamesley, 1 in Chapel and 1 in New Mills. And at the moment, we've got a couple of future events planned in Edale and Buxton. In terms of the type of events that we're going to, we did a Christmas event alongside the Bureau in Gamesley, which was very well attended, but there wasn't a lot of interaction. There was a lot of multi-generational families that were there with young kids, so it was a bit tricky to find a time to grab people and have in-depth conversations with them. The pensioner credits, so we've done a pensioner credit event in New Mills, 1 in Glossop, and 1 in Hayfield. The pensioner credit events have been very good in terms of the people that are attending there. So we've had lots of referrals come from those events. Lots of those people have been really needing support, and particularly getting a lot of pensioners who are owner occupiers. They've got possibly large houses and not a huge amount of income, and poorly instated properties. I think the one issue I'd say with the pensioner credits is that although everyone who attended needed support, attendance wasn't amazing, and I think that's probably, with it being listed as pensioner credit events, though some people not thinking it was for them, or not realizing there was additional support available. We've been to some events in community cafes. Did one of those in Chinley, which is a really, really good event. I'm looking forward to going to their new facility when I believe it's open up in February. So hopefully go back to that and see them again there, because that was a really well attended event, and the people, the volunteers who run that were fantastic. We've been to food banks. Oh yes, go for it, Gillian.
Thanks, Chair. Thanks, Jamie. Yeah, just want to back up what Jamie said. It was, in many ways, it was a really good event, the pension credits event in Hayfield. We had quite a lot of different people coming, and obviously March's Energy. But I agree with what Jamie said, that we advertised it as a pension credit event, and that definitely limited the number of people that could come. So I think we would be looking at, I say, marketing it differently, holding it as a different type of event, because you know there's a high level of fuel poverty in Hayfield, so we want to try and reach more people. But I know you had some quite good conversations there, Jamie, and really appreciate the work you did, but I think it needs to be called something else other than pension credits next time. Thanks very much.
Yeah, and just going on for that, Gillian, I think all of those events were brilliant, and you know, there was myself at that one. We had NEA there as well. There was,
Yeah.
I think, Derbyshire Fire Brigade. I can't remember if they were that one, but they've been at other ones
they
I've
couldn't
done.
come. They couldn't come, unfortunately.
Yeah, so Derbyshire Fire Brigade, I think we're definitely at the one in New Mills, and possibly at the one in Glossop as well. We had people from the food bank in New Mills who were there. We had Mark from Christians Against Poverty. So there's loads of really great people, and so I think there's real value in doing those projects. And like I say, everyone who came into, we had amazing conversations with. So it's working out how we can get more people to think, oh, that's relevant to me.
Definitely. Thanks a lot.
So, no, thank you, Gillian. So, yeah, we've done events in food banks. So that's at Zinc, where we will be tomorrow as well, heading down to support those people and work with their volunteers there. The clothing bank, if no one's been to the Hummingbirds Centre in Glossop for their clothing bank, is absolutely fantastic. It's a really good location that really support the local community well. And we've done a couple of environmental events. We've done a health event, which was led by Move More in Glossop. We have attended a men's support group, which was in a Wetherspoons, I think it was, in Glossop as well. And that was through a suggestion from the Bureau. And then we've kind of got more of a specialist energy event, and that's what we've got coming up in Edale at the start of next month. So those are the kind of events that we've been going to so far. In terms of home visits, so we've got a target of around 100 home visits. We have 50 people that we've got signed up for home visits at the moment. 100 home visits in 6 months is you know, quite a challenge to get those people signed up and gone through those home visits. So that has been very much the priority for the project so far. So when we started the project, the priority was very much getting home visits into the calendar and arranged as early as we possibly could, and making those links and going to those events so that we can create that pipeline for future home visit referrals. So there's 50 that we've got signed up at the moment. 17 of which have been completed. Obviously, we've had a few weeks with Christmas and New Year, but out of those 17, 3 have required multiple trips. So, you know, there was too much to do in the space of the time we had to do them on the day, so we've had to go back. Out of those 50 sign-ups, 17 are in Glossop, 7 in Hadfield, 5 in Gamesley, 5 in Buxton, 4 in Chinley, 4 in Hayfield, 2 in Wadleybridge, 2 in New Mills, 1 in Chapel, 1 in Charlesworth, Simonley and Bucksworth. I should mention, actually, I forgot to mention at the start, I've updated the PowerPoint presentation today and yesterday with sort of more recent numbers. So this will be different to those that have circulated as part of the agenda, but Sarah has popped that. I've sent it over to Sarah, so she can share that with it at a later date. Kath.
Yeah, it would be useful if councillors were told when these events were on, because I didn't know there was anything happening in Chapel, and you've only had one person signed up. But you know, we can spread the word better, possibly. Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, one of the things from this is trying to get a better connection, because it would be good. I know I can go online, but it's not necessarily obviously which councillors are linked to what areas, but I will endeavour to put through to FICA a list of events that we've got going to, and then she can hopefully send them out, or I can send them out directly to the councillors that are relevant to that area, and if they are able to come along, then that'll be fantastic. So yeah, so these are the home visits that we've got signed up, and let's say 17 of which are completed so far. In terms of the home visits, they're very much tailored to the household needs. So sometimes we're going to go to a property where it's an owned or occupied property by a pensioner, maybe in receipt of pensioner credits, and they've got very different needs to people in social housing with a large young family. So we will try and tailor the household visits very much their needs. Some of the things that we've been doing as part of the home visits, we've been installing low cost measures. So that LCM stands for low cost measures. So this will be things that can be easily installed either by the homeowner or the householder, or by the lady Lindsay who's doing our home visits. I'll go into a bit more detail about what low cost measures we've been providing. We might be able to provide electrical goods. So this will be things like heated throws, which only cost a few pence an hour to run, compared to a few pound that people might be spending on their gas central heating at the moment. So particularly good for those evenings where maybe it isn't cold enough to put your whole heating on, but if you're sat down and not moving, then it's going to give you that warmth that you need. And obviously, particularly this time of year, warmth is incredibly important to make sure people are staying healthy. It could also be things like air fryers and microwaves and air dryers and those kind of items that reduce the energy consumption that people have. We also, a lot of times, we'll look at heating and boiler controls, particularly boiler controls. Most people, we're going to properties and the flow rate in their boilers is well above 70, 75. So by reducing that down to more like 65 or slightly below, it's not going to have any impact on their heating, but it would save them a significant amount of money during the period of a year. And most people just aren't quite sure. People are a bit scared about touching. A lot of people are quite scared about touching their boilers, thinking that they're going to do damage to it. So it's just giving them the confidence of making them aware of how to use a boiler and how to get the most out of that, or their thermostats and other heating controls they have. We can provide supplier advice. So this could be advice around tariffs, debt advice if people are struggling. If people are privately rented or owner occupiers, then we can look at retrofitting grants, energy debt advice, and energy provider debt as well that we can look into. Gillian.
Yeah, thanks. Sorry, it's me again. I was
That's
just thinking, Jamie, a lot of the people who would really benefit from these might not go on social media, Facebook, etc. Do you have a leaflet, like a little A5 leaflet or something that we can post through doors? Because a lot of us know the kind of households that we need to be targeting, just with contact numbers on and the kind of support that you offer, just like a little straightforward leaflet.
We absolutely do. I've got a large number of them at the moment. So I will have a word with FICA. There you go. FICA's put a hand up. There you go, FICA.
Yeah, we do have the leaflets, and I've got them in the office as well. So if you want to pick them up, you can pick them up from the office as well, from Buxton Town Hall.
Okay, I'll email you, FICA, and arrange time to do that. Yeah. Thanks very much. Thanks, both of you. Thank you.
But what I would say as well is that we are going out quite a lot into the high peak areas. So if people have got particular streets that they would like us to pop letters through, then by all means drop me a line and say can you sort of pop some through these doors and this area, and we're very happy to do that. I think there was another couple of people hands up, but I can't see. Someone's initials are JT.
That's me. Yeah, I just wanted to know what time the one at Zinc is tomorrow, because I didn't know that was happening.
So I will be there from 11 till 1 at Zinc tomorrow with a chap called Liam. We won't be the only people there. So what Zinc have got going on is every Wednesday they have a different themed event. So the first Wednesday, and I could have these Wednesdays wrong, but the first Wednesday could be health related. So they might have someone taking blood pressure tests. They might be someone offering advice around how to keep healthy. The second week there might be one. I'm trying to think what the themes are. There might be one about fitness or keeping active, and then the third Wednesday of every month they've got one focused on finance. So we'll be there this Wednesday, a Wednesday in February and a Wednesday in March. The third Wednesday of every month will be at Zinc. Let's say between 11 and 1. I'm not sure who else will be there, but there'll be some other people there as well. But yeah, absolutely. If you want to come down and say hello, that'd be fantastic. And Fike, did you have your hand up as well?
No, I just wanted to add to that, we do have your information on the letters that we sent out as well to social housing. So there is information for Warmer Derby and Derbyshire on there. And on all the social media posts that we post as well. So if they do have social media, then they can use that information. But we did send out letters.
Yes, actually, I'll come on to that in a little bit, Fike, as well, actually. The one thing that I haven't actually put on here, which is a bit remiss of me, the other thing that we've got is we have a new, what we call a heat app. So this is an app that we can go through with the clients, and it looks at energy usage. So in a typical house, in terms of gas, most people, it's central heating and maybe a cooker, and that's the only thing people are using gas for. Obviously, electricity, that you're using it for a whole range of different appliances and items in the property. So in terms of the heat app, is essentially it's a questionnaire that we can go through with the client to look at how they use energy, because a lot of people will fixate on things like laptops and mobile phone chargers, and think about, we've got to turn the lights off, but actually things like, LED light bulbs, phone chargers, they really don't use up that much energy. But people might still be washing their clothes on at 60 degrees or higher. They might still be using the tumble dryer unnecessarily. They might be having long showers on a daily basis. So the idea about the heat app is it goes through what the person's current energy usage is, or their family's energy usage is, and then what we do then say, if you make these subtle changes, if you don't wash your clothes at 60 and put them at 40, if you use your air fryer and your microwave instead of your oven, if you, instead of having 15-minute showers, you have a 10-minute shower, it will actually come up with a monetary amount. So at the end of it, it will say, if you take on these recommendations of this behavior change, then you will find that over a year you might save, and I think the average property is about £300 that people have been saving this heat app, because ultimately behavior change is really important. Insulating or energy efficiency is great, but if we can get behavior change, then we're not wasting as much energy as we currently are. I think, is that Joanne with a hand up?
Yes, I just wondered, you've talked about putting leaflets through people's doors and so on, but is it worth doing that after the end of March? I mean, would you still be able to do home visits or give people advice, or is it not worth it?
No, so potentially, I mean, a lot of what we're doing, a big part of what we're doing in this project is what we do as part of the wider Warmer Derby and Derbyshire project. So a lot of that support is still going to be available to people. Right. Essentially, the great thing about this project is it's highlighting to people that there is support out there. So rather than grumbling at the bus stop, complaining to your daughter or your best friend about, I can't keep my house warm, it's trying to get that message out where if you can't keep your house warm, there are people to support. So I think it's potentially worth doing both. I'd like to do it as soon, so we can get more people signed up as part of this project. But there probably isn't any danger in doing it afterwards as well.
Great.
So those are the kind of things we're doing as part of the home visits. So far, so this is out of the 17 home visits so far. We've put radiator foil behind 18 radiators. We've handed out 3 LED light bulbs, or LED light bulbs to 3 properties. We've at 7 properties. We've done external door seals. So that's putting sort of rubber sealant around the doors to make sure that their drafts aren't coming in. We've also done 7 properties with window seals. We've installed 6 properties with door draft excluders and 2 door brushes to help keep the internal rooms warm. We've installed 3 houses with single secondary glazing. So that is a glazing film that goes over the windows to improve the insulation. And there's been 8 properties where we've done boiler and heat control changes. We've had electric throws. We've given out to 5 properties at the moment, an air fryer, some heated dryers that we haven't provided yet, but we will be soon. There's one person that, so this is isn't included in the funding from the High Peak, but we've sourced some curtains for a gentleman because this particular property didn't have any curtains. So we found that. We've given some signposts and people towards pension to credit advice and grants around the EcoFloor and EcoFlex. We've given some people advice around one person advice around supplier tariff, and we are supporting a couple of different people with debt. So one person we've supported in an application to the British Gas Energy Trust Fund to clear debts of around about £1,000, and we are at the moment supporting a resident of the High Peak who has a debt of just under £9,000 with one of the energy providers. So we're supporting those in terms of it appears just so you can, if anyone's concerned, it appears to be an issue with the supplier. So we're hoping that should be resolved fairly quickly. But they're the kind of things we can support people with. So the main focus of the project to begin with was on getting these events and these sign-ups done. In terms of other areas that we'll be working on in the coming weeks, it will be helping to establish an Eco4 process for the High Peak Borough Council, looking at community training, see if we can train up people and volunteers in organisations to be able to offer energy advice, increase referrals coming in, so how we can get more people referring residents in need to Marches Energy Agency, and again, what Joanne was talking about in terms of that future pipeline, what we can do to make sure people still know this advice is available. And then just some initial findings, really. I think the main one is there really is a need, but people are hesitant. So this is where a lot of times I think there's putting leaflets to people's doors of areas where we know there's a need is useful, but there is a hesitancy, and I think the best way to explain that is when I've gone to community cafes. I was in the one in Chinley, and I was there for about half an hour. I did have one lady come up and speak to me and ask me what the project was and if she could have support, but everyone else kind of cracked on with their day. Once I've been there for about half an hour, and I guess they were a bit familiar with me, my presence in the room, I went round and sat with every table and spoke with every table, and pretty much every table there was someone in there that was struggling in some ways with their energy. Maybe they had an issue with smart meters. It seems that Chinley's got a signal issue with smart meters, so there's a lot of people who had issues with their smart meters. There were lots of people whose their properties were cold and they couldn't keep them warm, and so there's a lot of need, but those people weren't yeah, they weren't forthcoming until we went to them and said, what can we do to help? So this is one of the key things, and it's why events are so important, because people are a bit hesitant around home visits. So the fact that they can speak to myself or Lindsay and we can just build up that little bit of a relationship, then we can encourage them to have a home visit and to get the support they need. But there massively is a need, but as I say, people are hesitant. The events and the community groups are key. The community groups that we've been working with, their interaction with the community is really high. So they're the ones that can really drive referrals. The interesting so far, so out of those 50 people that we've spoken to, only 9 have been men, and I think 7 of those came from the men's support group that we went to. So again, at the moment, I think because this is mostly being driven by events, it tends to be more men that have more women that have been coming to these events, and particularly pension credit events, than men. So there's something around how we can target those sort of lone pensioners who are men as well as the females, because you know, it's a stark you know, less than 20% of the people that have got home visits is much lower than expected. As I said, most of the referrals have come from events, but we have also had phone calls to our Warmer Derby and Derbyshire line. We're getting people that have had family and friends that have told them about it. We've had referrals in from different community groups, and posters and social media posts have brought in referrals. The thing at the bottom is related to what Fike was saying earlier on. So as part of the project, Social People and Social Housing was sent out light bulbs and temperature cards. And I've spoken to a lot of people who have received them, and all of those people who received those light bulbs and temperature gauges would have also had a letter with information about the Warmer Derby and Derbyshire number and how to contact us. So the question is really is how to get those people over the line from sort of saying, oh, thanks to the light bulb, to then doing the next step, which was then just sort of picking up the phone or sending an email to get in touch. and then finally, next steps really. So from my point of view, we're looking at doing more events, and in the more rural areas is what we're keen on. We could very easily probably get 100 home visits just by going into Zinc in Buxton and the Bureau and Hummingbirds in Glossop. But I think what I really want to try and do is target areas of Hope Valley, areas of Tintwistle, those kind of smaller communities, because there are high levels of fuel poverty in those areas, and there possibly isn't the most obvious support and community groups necessarily there that are signposting them. So we have got this event, so thank you to Councillor Collins. We've got this event on the 1st of Feb in Edale, but if anyone knows of any community groups that would be that are active in their wards, then if you can let me know, we'll pass on my details to those. We have got funding available to hire venues, so you know, we'd be happy to put on a bespoke sort of energy advice, particularly in the rural areas. So the one we've got in Edale, we're kind of doubling up. So I'll be there as part of the High Peak Borough Council project. I'll also be there with a colleague of mine who is doing a project, a heat hub project. So that is going to be more about retrofitting difficult to insulate properties. So I'm very happy to, you know, obviously in those sort of more rural areas, there's going to be a wide range of people. So any events that councillors want to put on, or community groups, or even venues that would be good for us to put on our own project, our own events, that would be really good. And then again, we'll be looking at doing some more targeted Facebook and social media posts. So we haven't done lots on Facebook at the moment, but again, if there are really active Facebook groups within local communities, then if people are happy to share that with me, then we can speak to the admins of those people to see if we can get some posts on those and be a bit more targeted rather than just going to the events in the obvious places. I think that is it in terms of an update from me. So I'll stop sharing. And if anyone, if anyone's got any questions at all, then I can take some questions now if the chair's okay with that, or I can, people can email me afterwards with anything they want to ask.
Okay, thanks, Jamie. Any final questions? Gillian?
No question. I just wanted to just clarify where this has come from, this project. So as Jamie said, Marches Energy Agency already run Warmer Derby in Derbyshire. It's a helpline, they do home visits, etc. But this project is an enhanced version of that, where we're very much going out and targeting, and we've got Jamie as our project manager for High Peak, and that's been funded through the UK Shared Prosperity. That's also funded the small measures that he was talking about, those low, I can't remember what you called them, Jamie, the insulation and all that stuff. That is so rare to get funding for things like that. So we are really, really lucky that we've got that. The funding is only up until March. So if you do have any events, surgeries, you think there's a mother and toddlers group that might want a coffee morning, please get in touch with Jamie or FICA really soon so we can get it booked in. Because unless we get some more funding, we'll still have wonderful Warmer Derby in Derbyshire, but we won't have that very targeted on our doorstep resource that we can call on whenever we want. So yeah, please do. And also contact FICA if you want leaflets. We can post them out. We can drop them off places for you as well. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Gillian. I've got Joanna, then Madeline.
Yeah, I just wanted to say I think this is a really, really good thing and a real sort of exemplar of High Peak working with partners and engaging with community groups. I mean, I think sometimes on the climate change agenda, it hasn't worked that well. The community groups have sort of talked to us and so on, but perhaps not really had much impact on climate change and all the related aspects of energy, for example. So I think it's really good. So thank you, Gillian, and thank you, Jamie and FICA.
Okay, thanks, Joanna. Madeline?
Yeah, thanks very much. I just wondered if there were any links to transition teams offering energy efficiency surveys and recommendations. I know that they've sometimes been overwhelmed by the demand for the service, but it just occurred to me that it might be a route to help sustain support when the current funding ends, to actually build it at least into the network of requests that they've already had. Have you made any links that way?
So with transition groups, not as such. I've had some conversation with people. I think it's Transition New Mills, and then some people at Sustainable Hayfields. So that is very much on the agenda. What I want to do is mostly sort of work with community groups as a first port of call, and then coming into this sort of second half of the project, would be working with transition groups. But what I would say is with all these sort of community groups and transition groups, and it's the same with parish councils as well. If you're cold emailing into these groups, it's not it's not as easy as if someone that's known to them send sort of emails and says, oh, by the way, this is such and such. Would you like, this is what they can do, and this is what a project they're working on. It really helps sort of break down any sort of barriers, because a lot of these organisations getting people sort of emailing into them from a similar thing. So yeah, any sort of support with introductions would be very welcome.
Well, that goes exactly back to the point, doesn't it, about councillors needing to know when the meetings are. You also need to reach out to councillors who have those links and can broker something.
Yeah, and absolutely, and that's sort of say a big part of this meeting tonight is doing that.
Thank you.
Could I just answer that
Okay,
as
thanks,
well?
Madam. Go on, Jean.
Well, Transition Buxton was originally given training by Marches Energy in being energy advisors quite a number of years ago. In fact, Peter Burgess Allen actually got some training in that. And they do have energy advisors that go out doing, well, assessing houses and this kind of thing as well.
Yeah, but Jean, that's exactly what I'm saying. Peter's actually moved to Sheffield now, but
No, he's not there now.
and they are overwhelmed, I know, with requests, but they do have those links, and what we should be doing is making sure that we articulate in with them. I mean, just to say, I'm sounding critical. I really agree with what Joanna was saying, that it's been a really positive presentation, really positive things that you're doing. It's just trying to make it better and sustain it beyond March, really.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks, Madeline. Gillian?
Yeah, just to follow on from that, as Jamie did mention in his presentation, part of the service agreement is to offer that. We haven't really pursued it much as yet. We are aware of groups that are already doing the advice in various shapes and forms. I know some of you know about that. But I was going to mention later, and I'll mention now just because it's relevant. We do have, again, as part of Shared Prosperity, we have a community energy fund, which is advertised at the moment. It's a one-off opportunity for community groups to bid in, and one of the strands that we can fund is setting up or supporting those local groups giving energy advice. So it could be training, it could be those small measures, whatever they need. So there are opportunities there. It's a one-off, but we've got it. We just need to get it over the line, really. So thanks.
Okay, thanks, Gillian. Jill.
Yeah, thanks, Anthony. Whoops, we disappeared. We organised our own event in Hayfield. So I would recommend that people can actually do that, as well as, kind of waiting for Marches to come to them. We can reach out to Marches. I'm quite happy to talk to any other councillor who wants to see what we did. It was myself and Anne Clark, who's our Derbyshire County Councillor. We organised it. It's based on something that Sally Dupee had done in Chapel. So it could be us that kind of initiates it. That's what I'm saying, and I'm happy to help anybody else with that. I completely agree with what Joanna said, and I think what this project has also shown is that when we tackle climate change, we tackle social inequality as well. And I think that happens across the board, and it's really important to keep linking the two. Thanks very much. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Jill. Okay, I think you can sort of now safely escape. Jamie, I can't see any further hands up for you.
Are you okay if I just say just a little round up? I mean, so one thing is that High Peak has got some absolutely amazing community groups. I've been incredibly impressed by particularly the Bureau and the Hummingbirds and Zinc and some of the other ones as well. So you are blessed with some really, really good support groups. And like I say, the main focus at the start of this was working with those kind of organisations, so that we had sort of a straightaway access to people that we knew would be in support of home visits. Like the next phase would definitely be looking at the training and the eco scheme and getting that set up. But yeah, I've put my email address in the chat. So if any councillors have got a community groups or people that they think that I should be contacting in their local area and may not have done already, then please get in touch. Very happy to get in touch with anyone and organise as many events as we can. Thank you.
That's good to hear. Okay, thanks for the update, Jamie. And if folk have got any suggestions or ideas for events, please do get in touch with Jamie or with any of the team. Although some of the funding we've got only runs until later in towards the end of March, we are expecting that the Shared Prosperity Fund will be renewed in some way, shape or form. We just don't have any details of what the funding available for that will be for the next year so far. But as soon as we do, we can start to look at what options there are to be able to support the scheme if needs be. Okay, in that case, we shall move on. Unfortunately, Katie is unable to attend this evening, but is there anyone else that wants to give us a bit of a nature update?
I'll do it.
Yeah.
Sorry, it's me again. Yeah, so it was just really, she just wanted to flag up. Sarah kindly sent around an email, I think on Friday, on the local nature recovery strategy for Derbyshire and the consultation. It's not to be publicly shared, so please don't be sharing it, obviously, but you are allowed to comment on it. Now, Katie had asked everybody to email her with if you have any comments that she can collate together. But what I'll do is I will send round our general email, because we're not sure when Katie will be back. And if you can send it in there, then we as a team will figure out what to do with it. I've got connections with the county, with the ecologists there, so it shouldn't be too bad. But I will send that. I think the deadline was the 3rd of February. So please send in any of your comments before then. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Gillian. Any comments or questions, anyone? But we'll get that detail and the new email address,
Yeah,
or the
I'll send
alternative
that.
email address, and the deadline date recirculated to folk. Okay, we'll move on then to the next item, which is the summary of domestic energy strands. Gillian.
Oh, hello. So yeah, it was just really to give you a bit of a very brief update on where we're at. Jamie's mentioned ECO. ECO is a grant that already exists. We haven't particularly actively engaged with it for various reasons. So part of the project that he's working on, as he said, is doing a bit of a desk-based analysis of where we could use that to target. There's also another one called GBIS, which is the Great British Insulation Scheme, which, yeah, I'm not a fan of the title, but never mind. And yeah, and there's certain qualifying criteria. So part of that assessment is to see who would qualify for what and how we can best target and use our efforts. So now we've got FICA in place as well to coordinate and manage those schemes, and then we've got Marches Energy to do the backup of like taking people through the schemes. The HUG scheme, the Home Upgrade Grant, is coming to an end. I think we've got to get all of our homes processed by the end of this month. So that's if you remember, that's the off-gas properties. It's been really, really hard to get people on board with it. It's a really difficult scheme. It's got so many algorithms and limitations on it that it's just very hard to use. But we have, I think, got either 7 or 8 properties through, which is a market. How many have I got?
Sorry, we've got 7 properties through,
7.
and 2 are going to be in this batch.
Okay, so we're gonna hopefully get to 9, and then we've got 1 hovering in the background that may or may not make it. So thanks, Becca. So that's going to wrap up. That's going to be replaced with now let me just get this right, the Warm Homes Local Grant, which looks easier to administer and to sell. with that, it won't just be off gas properties, it'll be on or off gas. So any house, owner occupier house, some private landlords will be able to apply a bit more easier than before. What is included in this as a criteria is those IMDs that Jamie was talking about. So those certain areas, which means from a targeting point of view, we might be able to do full streets, which we've never been able to do. So we can really target areas and build in efficiencies. Thank you, Fika. Fika's just put the criteria in the chat there. So that's a bit of a game changer, to be honest, and that really helps us strategically sort of go through the worst performing streets, which is just fantastic. And then there's other things around income, which we've still to get our head around, but some of it will be based on how many people are in the house. It's not just a flat 36,000 max. There'll be sort of shades within it that we sort of need to get our head around.
It's a cost of living aspect of it as well. So the
yes,
households, how much income they have.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was trying to say. So yeah, that's cool. And then there's means tested benefit as well that we'll be able to apply. So this will be coming live in March. There's 500 million for England. It will be 3-year program at least, maybe extended to 5. We're still waiting on the details, but we have obviously put in with it. We are in a consortium with the rest of Nottinghamshire, Derbyshire, and some more Staffordshire. I think East Midlands generally. Joanna.
Yeah, you mentioned streets, but you know there are quite a lot of isolated and very cold properties. Who, I mean, I know of one which tried twice for Hug. Yeah, just to point out, but you know, there's lots of
absolutely not discounting them. But what I am saying is that ability to do street by street, it gets you the you know the economies of scale. You get that sort of keeping up the Joneses thing. You know, it just it's more efficient. But it wouldn't be, we wouldn't discount that. You know, as individual properties in the least, it's just it adds to what we should be able to achieve with it, basically.
Okay, thank you.
So that was all. I don't think I have anything else on that. But yeah, I just think now that we've got FICA here as well, we can put a lot more capacity into delivering these. So I think we've done okay in the past, but I think we can do a lot better now. So that was all. Are there any other questions?
Yeah. Any further questions or comments for Gillian on this point? No. In that case, we shall move on then to the community grant fundraising update.
Me again.
Gillian.
Sorry. I think somebody asked about this last time. I just wanted a quick summary. There will be a more detailed summary within the annual report, which I think is due to go to exec next month. But I can quickly run through this. So just for those who aren't aware, the Climate Change and Nature Community Fund has been running since 2022. We have awarded, I was going to add up the number of groups. I think about, I'm going to say about 15, 16 groups, or 16 projects rather, 22,000. The budget is 20,000 per year. It's administered by the High Peak CVS, and it's judged by a panel, so it's not just me or a councillor or High Peak CVS deciding. There's a group. AES contribute to it as well, so they are also on the panel, and their input's actually invaluable to when we're looking at some of the applications, because they have a lot of knowledge around some of the things that people are asking for, like picnic tables and mowing and biodiversity. So we've awarded 22 grand so far. Originally, excuse me, we'd ran 4 rounds per year. of £500, and then a community group could submit one application per round, but it had to be for different projects or phases of a project. So we were trying to avoid paying for running costs, but occasionally we'd be putting through. So for example, the baby bank, when it first established, absolutely mushroomed and they couldn't keep up. So in that case, we did decide, just to help them out, that we would fund that as a one-off, and we were quite clear that it was just a one-off for running costs. So yeah, so 500 for 4 rounds, and then, but this year, because of changes with CVS, we've had to squish it all into 6 months. So we actually ran £1,000, and we got some really good projects. So we're going to stick with that for 2 rounds per year at 1,000, because we just felt the groups were able to do bigger things. So we'll review it after next year, but I think that worked quite nicely for the groups. In terms of the geographic spread, New Mills comes in top with 9 projects funded, Glossop's next with 7, Hayfield 6, Buxton 5, Chapel 4, Whaley and Hadfield, sorry, are 2, and then Tinsel, Whitfield, Charlesworth and Chisworth all have 1. There are other projects that cover the whole of the High Peak, like the baby bank that I just mentioned. So there is quite a good spread, and the fund has done all sorts of things. There's supported groups with bike maintenance, repair cafes, children's after-school growing clubs, bat boxes, recycling projects. We've done some arts, funded some arts projects where we're using sort of theatre and storytelling to communicate about nature, with, you know, sort of marginalised groups, walking groups where they'll talk about nature when they're out. The criteria is, excuse me, that the project needs to contribute to either our climate change plans or our plan for nature. It's quite easy form. I will stick a link to where it is in the chat afterwards. It's not open at the moment. It will open again in February. The reason it's not open at the moment is the Community Energy Fund, which I mentioned earlier, is open, and there are 3 grants available of up to 5,000 each, and they're either to improve the energy performance of a community asset or building, so like a scout hut, tennis court, something like that. It could be to support setting up or expand a community-led advice programme, like we talked about earlier. So for training, measures, marketing, insurance, you know, all that kind of stuff, you know, safeguarding policies, helping with that. Or it can be used for a feasibility for perhaps a renewable energy project, but as long as it's community owned or led. So that is open at the moment as an application. They close at 9 AM on the 3rd of February, and I'll post the link to both of them in the chat. That's all from me on that, Anthony.
Yeah, thanks, Gillian. Any comments or questions for Gillian? I'm not seeing any hands, so we'll move on to our final item, which is the work programme. And looking at our next meeting on the 25th of Feb, we'll be looking at updates around social housing retrofits, including employer information, and that'll also include information around LED lighting, refurb and Park Road, future funding bids. We'll have an item on tour, operational missions, and the next steps from the annual reports. Are there any other items that folk think we should be looking at as part of the work planning for future meetings? Madeline?
It's just a question. Can you confirm that the refurb of Park Road is actually about number 45, the council property on Park Road? Or is it something
I can't, but I'm hopeful that someone on the call can.
Hi, yeah, it's a villa, and we've just, I think, bought. I think this might not be right. You might want to check this. I think we've just bought the last flat within this converted villa, and thus we're using the UK Shared Prosperity Fund to renovate. All the windows are rotten for the whole building, so I believe it's all the windows. I don't know the number. I could take you there.
No,
I don't know the number.
I live virtually opposite it, Gillian.
Oh, do you? All right.
It's number 45. No, that's really good news. Thank you.
Yeah. Lisa Marie Olsen can confirm that, but that's my understanding of it.
Okay, thanks a lot.
Okay, thanks, Gillian. Thanks, Madeline. Joanna.
Sorry, can we have an update on nature as well, or is that not going to be worthwhile? Because we were going to have it every time in order not to let nature slip down the agenda.
Yeah, no, I think the intention is if there is something for us to be updated on for each meeting, we'll include it. But if there isn't, then we obviously won't. But we will have another planning meeting in between now and the next meeting to confirm it.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I'm not seeing any further hands. So if I can thank you all for your attendance this evening and enjoy the rest of your evening. And just as
Thanks,
a
Anthony.
note, if there's
Thank you,
anyone
Anthony.
going into Buxton Town Hall tomorrow, the heating will not be on because of an emergency gas repair, so bring an extra jumper.